Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Stock that we're looking at today is a stock that's in a sector that I think is overlooked at the moment, but it won't stay that way for long. Company is called Graphite One Incorporated. Ticker symbol is GPHOF. It's trading over the counter, so OTCQB, so on the highest tier of the OTC markets. So it's a good quality company. Market cap just quickly is tiny. 26 mil market cap, hasn't gone parabolic recently compared to some of the other stocks in the sector. Wall Street analysts rating the company as a buy. It's a bloody cracker. We'll get to that in a sec. So, bit of a history. All graphite stocks, and I'll show you some graphs, had a pump back in 2015. You know, Tesla was coming out, they were selling some cars. All of the battery metal stocks pumped, and they've all since bottomed right out. That was because supply versus demand. So the demand for these critical minerals wasn't where it is today, and that's all changing as of now. So you can see Graphite One stock from its all-time high a few years ago, it's down about 95%. Absolutely hit the floor in 2020, and has started to steadily pick up some pace, like all of these stocks. So let's quickly go through some of them. Talga's different. Talga is a company that I invested in that I'm going to compare Graphite One to throughout this whole video, because that's the closest thing that I can compare it to. It's another graphite mine. So all of these graphite companies pumped in 2015, like I said, they've bottomed out in 2020, and they're all starting to gain traction now. People should start paying a bit more attention to this sector, because although it's not as sexy as like EV and investing in like Tesla and NIO and XPEV or whatever, Lake, that's a lithium company, absolutely pumped recently. People are starting to take notice of these stocks, and there's very good reason for it, because the more and more electric vehicles that get sold, the more they're going to need electric vehicle batteries. And if you Google, what do we got? Google anything like graphite supply, demand, all of the news is going to say the same stuff. Battery sector cries out for more graphite. Shortfall looms. Massive graphite shortage looms over electric vehicles, and also electric energy storage system as well. Everyone with that push, the green energy push, and all of the governments around the world pushing for a greener, more sustainable future for the planet. They're going to need all of these battery metals, and there's not enough of this stuff to go around. Okay, so let's just go back to Graphite One. Recently, there was some news that came out. The stock pumped about 50%, had a bit of a pullback. When I read the news and I saw this pullback, I bought in straight away. There's good reason for that, because the news is, and this came out just the other day, that's the reason for that little pump, January 19. U.S. Government designates Graphite One project as a high infrastructure project. And that's pretty important for the government to recognize this mine as a high priority infrastructure project. They realize that Graphite One is sitting on a mountain load of graphite, and it's battery quality graphite. They finally recognize what they're sitting on, and being recognized will also help with getting the permits and stuff to push the mine forward, and also being recognized will help Graphite One get the funding from investment firms to set up production. And how does this similar to a stock that I invested in recently? Well, Talga is that stock that I invested in, first graphite stock that I've ever invested in. It's done like 1,000% gains. What does that say? 1,500%. It's had a dip recently because they raised some money, but really solid gains. It was one of my best investments of 2020, and they're about 3 steps ahead of Graphite One in terms of everything. So Graphite Talga was recognized. Their mine's in Sweden, biggest mine in Sweden of graphite, biggest mine in Europe of pure graphite, yeah? And it was recognized by the UK and the EU governments. They received funding from both governments to push this forward, and they've also received funding from other conglomerates, and just recently Goldman Sachs bought 10% of this company just because of the potential of what they're sitting on. It's like a gold mine of graphite. silver goodness. That's why I think Graphite One people should pay more attention to, because the market cap is like 10 times less, and they're sitting on just as much graphite as Talga, and they're doing things in a very similar fashion. So let's just look at the company. You see the website here. You guys can go like real deep. I won't go into all of it. Got to make this vid quick, but yeah. So they're sitting on. Oh, shit. What the hell? America's highest grade and largest known flake graphite deposit in the US. Stupid internet. Alright. So their PEA came out. PEA stands for Preliminary Economic Assessment of the Mine. It's just an initial overlook of the mine. They do some drilling and stuff like that. They figure out what's in there, topical surveys and whatnot. And they stated that they've got about $1.37 billion of graphite, NPV, which it stands for, what does that stand for again? Net present value. So there's different stages of a mine. It starts off with a PEA, then they go pre-feasibility study, feasibility study, and then they start mining. So at about the feasibility stage, which is where Talga is at, they start receiving funding, and then the mine goes into full production. So like I said, Graphite One is a few steps behind, but because of the truck mountain load of graphite they're sitting on, the quality of that graphite, and then being recognized by the US government, I think it's going to take the same steps as Talga. So just recently, we had the news of the government recognizing it. So the stock had a pump, and then like the very next day, which was, I don't know if that was strategic, but they released an announcement, $8 million in financing, units at 50 cents, and that's why the stock had to drop that next day, and that's why I took advantage of that stock. But I still think this is only just getting started. Had a look at some of those other stocks. Graphite and lithium stocks are absolutely pumping. I've got a watch list of about 30 over here in Australia. There's a lot of graphite and lithium miners over here, and in the past few months and even the past few weeks, some of these stocks have just gone parabolic. There's good reason for it too. Deals with OEMs, you've got mines being acquired by bigger mines, you've got strategic investments from people like Goldman and Sachs. There was a Korean battery maker that bought like $10 million worth of stock from this baby micro stock of a graphite mine. So the sector's like red hot at the moment, so pay attention. This is really important because Talga did the same thing. So Graphite One appoints a Chief Technology Officer. So what these battery companies are doing, battery metal miners, graphite miners are doing, is instead of just mining graphite and sending it off to like China or wherever, they sell it for about $700 a ton. If they can vertically integrate and turn that graphite into spherical coated graphite, which is what's needed for the anodes and the cathodes of the batteries, they can make a shitload more money. So if you're selling spherical coated graphite, it sells for like $7,000 a ton as opposed to $700. 70% of all that spherical graphite is coming out of China. With all the trade wars and the push for EV and the amount that is going to be needed, you have companies like countries like the US trying to find a supply source and supply chain within their own country. That's why Talga is looking to be the main source of graphite. They need way more than Talga's, way more than Graphite One's, but there's not enough of this quality graphite out there. So back to this news article. They announced that Dr. Shane Beattie is the Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately for Graphite One. So Dr. Beattie, get this, got a PhD in physics through the Jeff Dahn Research Group at Halifax. And that Jeff Dahn Research Group, they focus on the physics and chemistry of metals for energy storage, so batteries, primarily in the lithium-ion batteries sector, and Tesla Motors and Energy is an industrial sponsor of this research group. So this dude's got skills, he's got knowledge, and he's on board for Graphite One, and that's going to help them moving forward to have this tech dude on board. Yeah. Research and development of lithium-ion and energy storage systems in America and Europe. And it just gets better and better, this news. So, you know, they set up pilot plants, they mine this graphite, they turn it into spherical graphite, they send it off to OEMs. Like Talga has sent off a bunch of samples to, I don't know, about 30 OEMs over in Europe. They're testing the product. It takes between 12 and 18 months to be able to test this product before they start using it, because they have to test whether it's high quality, whether it's going to work in their batteries, whether it's safe, etc., etc. So Graphite One, this news came out a year ago-ish, over a year ago now. Well, it came out in 2019 anyway, right? Ages ago. What they did was they sent a bunch off to a US multinational electric vehicle maker to test their graphite. So they've already got the ball rolling. What does it say here? US multinational electric vehicle manufacturer, the battery grade purified spherized graphite, say that 10 times fast, was prepared by their processing partner and tasked to the manufacturer to provide its specs, blah blah blah, just to see if it's good enough to be used as EV battery metals. That's pretty epic. Alright, next bit of news. So there's different product lines that graphite can be used for. Obviously the biggest, most lucrative for them now would be EV battery makers, but they also do other testing. So with this PhD tech dude that they've got on board, they're all working together in these like labs and stuff. Graphite One reports results of multiple product lines. It's really important. Anode material, high purity like graphite based coatings, and industrial synthetic diamonds. So we've spoken about the spherized graphite. They're calling it stacks. Talga called their product Tal node. It's just like tech. So these graphite mines are going into more like tech, so they can vertically integrate and turn their own products, mine it, turn it into this tech graphite product, and then sell it off by the truckload to these battery makers for electric vehicles. Alright, rock and roll, where are we at? This was really important, I thought. So they purified versions of stacks subject to high pressure. They turn that carbon, because that's what graphite is, it's carbon essentially, same as diamonds, but anyway. They turned it into gemstone quality. Shit. Gemstone quality diamonds, so that's the product, right? That's the next step of testing. What is these diamonds used for? For semiconductor materials, for all semiconductors in your phones, laptops, 5G applications, anything heading into this digital age needs to use this type of product within their semiconductors. So it's pretty cool to diversify their product lines, not just EV batteries, but yeah, like into the semiconductors and stuff as well. Alright, so comparing Graphite One, their mine, to a bunch of other mines from Australia, and also, what do we got? Mexico, Quebec, Ontario, so Canada and stuff as well, Madagascar. Market cap just a few days ago was 18 mil. It's up to about, what do we say, 23 million at the moment, so still a baby compared to any of these. But they're also sitting on, so they're sitting on the second largest resource, the biggest resource in the States, with the lowest market cap. So it's still the lowest market cap out of all of these, pretty much. And they're sitting on the second largest amount. So you work that out. It's like, it's a beast. No stock Twits page, so it's under the radar. No one's even talking about it. There's a little bit of buzz on Twitter, but not much. Google Graphite One, you're going to see news. Out to make history, creating the first graphite supply chain in the country. So in America. Pictures of their graphite. It's like 95.95% pure graphite. Any lower than that can't be used for the EV makers. The point to note here is that it comes out of the ground, and when they roll it around and they add water to it, I'm no like scientist, bloody miner and stuff, but the stuff that China gets, they add chemicals to it, and it's like, it's bad for the environment. They're still pumping this stuff out, but all EV OEMs, electric vehicle battery makers in the EU have to use green graphite. So they have to use companies that are processing their graphite in a green way. So Talga does it with water and stuff as well. Their production plants are set up using energy or electricity from wind farms. So that's green, and that's why Talga's got this push ahead. The graphite that's coming out of the ground for Graphite One, it's it's high quality, and they don't even have to process it that much. They state somewhere that it's like 80% ready to go. It's the same size because the processing turns into that perfect little spherized graphite. They just got to coat it now in their production facility, and they send it off. They make an absolute shitload of coin. Good for us because it'll push the stock price up. Right, not much going on. They've only got 4 tweets recently because they started to transform the company. The governor of Alaska just released a tweet linked to that news that the US stated a critical project or whatever. Alaska has the resources and minerals to power the world's economy. By cutting through the bureaucratic red tape, we can move these projects forward. So if that is just not a screaming bit of news telling me, you, whoever, that they're going to push this project forward, heading into the future, like soon. Well, I don't know what is, guys. What else have we got? Oh, yep, news. So that's all I have for you today. Dive a bit deeper, do your own research, check out some other graphite stocks, lithium stocks, see how they're trading at the moment. They're starting to absolutely pump, and I think people should start paying attention. Out of all of the graphite miners in the Canada or the States or whatever, this one's still sitting at the bottom compared to where it's going to go. And if it tracks the same trajectory as Talga, next stop will be the moon. I don't even think the internet's working. Nah, internet's working. Sign it off. Peace.